Hey, you are listening to Real Talk with me, Ali, and her, Avril, on the Post-Burnout Growth podcast. And today's topic for you is the role of fun and play. Something we only decided a few moments ago to share, and I was keeping a secret from Avril as to which topic she needs to share with us. So we are delighted to have you here with us. So let's settle in. Avril, tell me about fun and
Yeah.
play.
Well, I must say, keeping in the spirit of fun and play, I really love that we've kind of been picking our topics as we go and we're having conversations on the go and really sort of leaning into that spirit of spontaneity, which which we know we kind of wanted to come to as we have these conversations. So thank you for keeping it a secret. It's just got my mind buzzing now.
Not putting you on the spot at all. But yeah, when we think about burnout and or post-burnout growth, um, what would you say when you think about the role of fun and play? It's important for
Um,
our listeners to consider.
so if I was to share, and I am going to share transparently from my own journey, it was almost the part of the work of learning to move through burnout was reconnecting to a sense of fun. I don't think it had disappeared, but connection that I had with it had gone. And potentially it had gone because in the pursuit of one's goals, in the pursuit of one's career, in the pursuit of all of the roles and responsibilities to be fulfilled, I definitely very much, I think for most of my life had this internal pattern as well of being the independent girl, but the strong person, the good girl, um, all of this conditioning around, I do what I say and I will see it through. So all of these internal pressures. And so having fun kind of started to fall to the bottom of the list. But also I wanted to sort of say that um I kind of forgot what it was like to just have the sense of ease and lightheartedness within myself. It was almost like the things that are worth having, and I say that deliberately in this way, like the things that are worth having must come at the end of struggle, and then fun will be found at the end of all of this. It's almost like going to the after party after the big thing's done, then you go to the after party, then you go to the celebration, like almost like it's earned on the back of a season of toil and struggle. So in the context of this conversation and to respond to your question, I think learning to reconnect to my sense of fun, but also finding out what is fun for me now.
Mhm.
And I still continue to do this work because what's fun for me now is probably not the same 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Um, who are the people as well that I enjoy, this sense of fun with, this sense of ease with, a sense of playfulness with. Um, I think all of these things have they kind of became the foundational work of coming back to myself and coming home to myself. And when I was in the deepest of deep burnout, there was really no other work to do other than just really be present with what's bringing in that sense of playfulness and joy and leaning into it. I almost felt like I was a 5-year-old child again who had to learn to discover. And it's strange to be able to come into my early 40s and then kind of go, wait, why am I so far away from this thing
Mm.
that should just be an instinctive part of me. But yeah, the sense of fun and playfulness in burnout recovery, I think, is one of the most crucial pieces, is what I can share from my journey. How about yourself? What did you find and discover?
Yeah, quite a few things or themes that you've shared there sort of sparked a number of trains of thought. I guess when I decided to really step back from everything to regain my sense of wellness and vitality,
Hmm.
um, regaining that sense of wellness and vitality was integral to me being able to rediscover fun, to rediscover joy, to rediscover a sense of play, but also a sense of kind of a bit like what we did today. Like we just chatted before, we hit record about what topics might we discuss today. And then
Yeah.
I said I would kick us off and, I'd choose the topic, like to be
Yes, you
revealed
did.
based on what we said, like, because you and I said
Yeah.
we wanted to get together and do this podcast, share with people our experiences so that maybe, you recognize some of yourself in it, you feel less alone, you go, oh my God, maybe that is normal and I'm not strange and it's not just me. But also, we were keen to have fun whilst doing this
Mm,
because I think you touched upon a few things that made me think about my days in corporate of always wearing the professional hat, always
mm,
conducting myself in a certain way, always conforming to a certain role. And I
mm,
think we all play different roles in life, whether we recognize that consciously or not. And the role that I had played in corporate life was so ingrained in me that
mm,
part of that contributed to me forgetting that kind of almost childlike sense of wonder, curiosity, exploration, being up for an adventure, being up to just kind of seeing what happens without trying to control everything.
mm,
And when you think about that element of play, is for me anyway, I don't think that play and control necessarily play well together. Excuse the turn of phrase. And so
Sure.
there's a willingness, there's an opening up, but all of that foundationally rested upon my ability to regain my vitality and regain
Mm,
my wellness. Because I feel like as part of the burnout journey, a lot of that fun, that play was probably the first things to evaporate. Even just like my sense of silliness and,
mm,
being Scottish and stuff, like my typical way of chatting with friends is banter. And I'll just talk nonsense, quite frankly. But it's playful and it's fun. And so instead of some of that more jovial character and energy about me, it was all very serious and quite frankly a bit
mm,
robotic. um,
mm,
so I think just some of the things you said sort of got me thinking about, you know, when you said about being independent, being sensible, and I was always sensible, I was always a steady hand on the ship in the crisis. But yeah, I think fun and play are massively overlooked in adulthood anyway. Massively overlooked to our sense of wellness. That we are actually, whether we believe it to be or not, creative creatures.
mm,
We create things from the moment we wake up in the morning, from creating the wardrobe that we're going to wear to the office or our home office, between creating our breakfast, creating our schedule for the day. There's lots of little things in which we are creating, and I think that when we're in our creative power, we're also in a playful power. So
mm.
I feel that all of these things for me personally anyway are very linked. I don't know what is that, how does that land for you?
I think what you've said about control really hit me when you talked
Mm,
about that before, because the sense of like with fun and playfulness, what I had to learn was that there's nowhere else to be but in the moment. And
mm,
fun and playfulness is such a sense of being, such a sense of, and I'm going to say this is in the, and use the language that is mine, that sense of feeling fully alive, moment to moment to moment. When we look at little children playing and in the way they
mm.
respond to, oh, that's a butterfly, or oh, I just need a nap, so I'm just going to lie down in the middle of the floor. Like the thing of we have touched upon this in a previous conversation, and we'll talk about this more, is learning to listen to our needs in that moment and just responding to it from that place of, I love the words you used, wonder, or inspiration, and of course coming back to that very deep well of creative power that exists within every one of us. Um, but I almost, as you were speaking there, I had very much the sense of, and this has been my learning, that fun and playfulness is almost that antidote to some of us who live with anxiety and that sense of always having to, we might not be doing it deliberately, but that sense of always having to control. We're either trying to control from a a mind that has gone back to. It's like it's somewhere looking at a past echo and going, I don't want that to happen again, so I'm going to have to do X, Y, Z, whatever. Or it's imagining the worst case and catastrophizing a future. The past is gone, the future isn't happened. We don't know if that future will ever take place. Um, but that sense of, I think for me, what came up there was sometimes that need to relinquish control. Fun
Mm,
and playfulness can almost become that antidote, and um, deliberately choosing to be in the moment, deliberately letting go of that sense of I've got to hold on to everything so tight, otherwise I will fall apart. I think fun and playfulness can really it definitely for me initially it made me feel like I was out of control, but actually it couldn't have been more of a way to come back to myself. Use the words vitality and wellness there as well. I think it's such a life-giving way
mm,
to come into ourselves. And what you said as well about creative power, that when we are fully immersed in that moment, when we are fully responding to our needs, then we can start to really be able to come at life or think about the challenges that are in front of us, or just in terms of how do we want to live. I love what you said, like, how do I want to dress for work? That also puts us into, we can have such a sense of fun and playfulness about it.
mm.
Um, but also, how to lead oneself from that place of fun and playfulness. Yeah, that would be a whole new thing, wouldn't it? Rather than I've got to be this, this is my professional self. This is the mask. This is how I am. It's almost like this kind of, to use the word armor. This is how I show up. And it's like we've almost forgotten how to we put the armor on, but we've got to take it off. So I think, yeah, fun
Mm,
and playfulness is almost like an act of rebellion, I'm going to say, in a post-burnout growth world of really
mm,
choosing yourself. And I think for me, I would also go as far as to say it has become self-care, but not self-care on a to-do list, self-care from an embodied place.
mm,
It's not something maybe I sometimes need to schedule time for it,
mhm.
but if I come at it from an embodied place, then I can have fun. I can choose myself and I can choose this moment.
Absolutely. And it's kind of almost makes me think about what we chatted about in another discussion about regulation.
Mm,
I've loads of thoughts on self-regulation, and I'm talking about nervous system regulation, where we either feel like, we're activated and positive emotion, high energy. Arguably, this is the energy space that we would be engaging in fun and play, or we've got the nervous system place where we, are in fight or flight or
hmm
fawn or freeze in response to stress activation or threat activation, or where perhaps we're starting to think about actually, I'm just completely shut down. Which I absolutely have been there. But what you made me think about with with respect to play and wellness is the role of play in regulation, either perhaps inviting playful ways into your day, small ways into your life as a way to up-regulate your nervous system positively. But also that when we are dysregulated, um, it can be quite difficult to be around others who are not in that activated high positive energy state. And so I've kind of gone a little bit deeper there than I intended, but I think there's a massive underestimation of just being in a regulated, calm, self-controlled, at peace within yourself space in life to meeting yourself, meeting others, meeting any task that you want to do, meeting any goals that you want to do, meeting life with a playful curiosity and
hmm
almost as well like a beginner's mindset that your
Yeah.
mind opens like a parachute when you're in this playful, activated, positive, regulated state. So although fun and play can sound again a little bit flippant, it's really not. Like
Yeah.
there's so much more goodness in there for us all to harvest.
Yeah. Yes, and I think you've touched upon something interesting in terms of nervous system regulation as well. Every person will have their own level at which they know that they're humming internally. You may not know it initially, and it takes some time and it takes some working with person or persons who can sort of help you co-regulate as well. But I will say from the point of view of my sense of fun and playfulness might not be your sense of fun and playfulness might not. So we're not coming at this from a we all are in the same place and the same thing works for everyone.
Mm.
I think what I would say from experience, and if you're listening to this episode and trying, sort of reflecting with curiosity on your own journey, I would encourage you to have a think about what is your own sense of fun, what is your own sense of playfulness. Notice what brings you up, what brings you down. Notice what you naturally run towards if if you gave yourself full permission, versus something you feel you should do in order to come to a sense of fun and playfulness. These are the kind of like internal rules we have. So yeah, in terms of also regulating your nervous system, sometimes we need to upregulate to be in certain states, and sometimes we need to downregulate.
Mm.
Um, but each person's, each person's sense of inner state of balance will be different. So if you're listening to this, maybe that we could leave you with this one sort of reflection point of have a think about, what does fun and playfulness mean to you, first of all? Notice what you do just in the course of living your life in your day. And then secondly, have a think about from a more intentional point of view, how can you invite more of that fun and playfulness into your life? Because if there's anything I can share from my post-burnout growth journey is we don't travel through this journey and things don't just happen. We have to be intentional and deliberate in how we are choosing to, because we'll have, energy levels are going to be all over the place with burnout. So
Mm.
with the energy we have, how are we going to intentionally and deliberately create those foundations, and invite in the things that sort of bring us back to what Ali's, the lovely language she's used there, that sense of vitality, that sense of wellness within us. Any closing wisdom as we start to bring this conversation to a close,
Yeah,
Ali?
just really just to build upon what you just said is two points, I guess, two angles is when you said about what is fun, what's playful for you. When I was either in burnout or in the early stages of post-burnout growth, I had lost touch with myself. I'd become disconnected from who I was, what I thought, what were my thoughts, what did I want, what did I need, was I doing something just because it was habit and I didn't know anything
Mm,
else, etc., etc. So one of the things I had to repeatedly do was kind of, in some ways, look at the past and say, when was the last time I smiled? When was the last time I felt good? What was it I was
beautiful.
doing? In order to give me a bit of a breadcrumb clue as to,
Mm,
well, might that still make me smile? Can I do that again? Is that accessible for me to do? Is that something I could invite into my day tomorrow, or that's something that I could engage in or plan
yeah.
to do at the weekend? Or, so looking sometimes back at our past can be
Yes.
necessary, especially in the burnout journey, everybody's journey being different, but certainly in mine is feeling disconnected from, you can feel disconnected in lots of different ways. And I think I should keep this for another podcast, but you can feel very disconnected that when somebody says to you, what makes you smile? What gives you joy? And you're like, I don't know, shrugging your shoulders like, mm. So
Mm,
that's when looking at your past, when was that last time that you smiled, that you couldn't stop smiling? When was that time that your heart just lifted and you just felt, oof, this feels amazing, this feels great? And use that and tap into that to start to create your new pathway forward, your new definition of fun and happiness.
mm,
Um, that would be probably the thing that I would share.
mm. Some real practical tips and strategy in terms of how our listeners can reflect, but also as we each continue to do this work, it's never a one and done.
Mm.
It continues to evolve as our own sense of self evolves and our own needs change. So thank you for that, Ali. That was super helpful. As we sort of start to bring this conversation to a close, we hope you've enjoyed being part of our conversation today. You've been listening to the Post Burnout Growth Podcast, Real Talk with me, Avril, and with my friend Ali. And we call it Real Talk because these are totally unscripted conversations. And as you've probably heard today, from a sense of our own sense of fun and playfulness and ease. If you've loved what you've heard today, we hope you will join us again. So do hit follow or subscribe to add this to your list of podcasts you come home to regularly. And if you know anyone who would benefit from our conversations, please feel free to share this episode with them. And we'll look forward to having you join us in another conversation soon. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, everyone.